D amps, whether you like it or not, they're here to stay. Apart from the obvious size and weight advantages, Class D amps have been criticized for the lack of dynamics and power at high volumes. However, both our habits and our needs have changed throughout the years, and today many of us bassists rely on a small and portable amp to use at least as a monitor on stage. So does this limit Class D to a backup option to a tube or transistor head? And if they're here to stay, surely Class D amps would have evolved ever since they first came out and got their bad reputation? Welcome back to The Wetterbass. For years I was reluctant to buy a Class D amp. I remember asking the founder of Glockenklang in the 2009 Frankfurt Messe why they still didn't make a Class D amp. His answer was quite straightforward. He said because they sound like shit. Glockenklang today has Class D amps. Does that mean that they sound like shit? No, it means that technology has evolved and adapted to our particular needs. Just look at other famous brands like Fender, Ampeg, Jensband, Gensler, Gallien-Kruger, SWR, Mesa Boogie, Mark Bass, GR Bass, Hardcore, TC Electronics, etc. Obviously, price is an important factor. I own the affordable TC Electronic BQ500 for a year, but despite a reasonable sound, I definitely did not like the lack of dynamics. Today we have two Class D heads that are both dynamic and powerful, yet have different approaches to sound treatment. This obviously means that today builders can rely on Class D technology to create their own sound signatures. To illustrate this, let's compare these two heads with a flat EQ setting. The Taurus has a slight scoop sound that is pleasant to the ear. In comparison, the Stopko has a slightly thicker mid-range and more subs that you can hear with the cab on, but overall closer to the original DI signal. So immediately we can say that the QUBE-450 is slightly colored, whereas the ROD500 is more transparent. You might have noticed that the volume on the Cube is below 9 o'clock, whereas on the ROD it's at noon. More on that later. Let's check the response in the lowest frequencies with the fat setting. Quite similar results here, and despite not having a plus or minus bass mini switch, the Stopko holds up quite well to the Taurus. Next is the Jaco setting with lots of lows and mids and barely if no treble. Evidently less lows with the ROD500 here. I should have dialed up a little bit the bass knob. But again, sorry to repeat myself, lots of subs. The Taurus has plenty of punch and warmth. Really nice. Let's scoop the EQ. Sorry about my slapping, not my strength. The Taurus really shines here, low end punch and plenty of sparkle. The Stopko holds back on the treble. However, we are talking about a bass that has passive pickups and electronics. In case you're wondering, I made this bass and I winded the pickups by hand. So if you do use a bass with active electronics, the excess of treble might be an issue with the Taurus, but you can obviously always turn down the treble knob. Also, note that the tweeter on the FMC is full open, with the mic mainly placed on top of the speaker and close to the tweeter. Last but not least, let's see what happens with the gain set to max. No distortion on the Taurus, and the EQ section makes this head ideal for a modern, punchy, slightly scooped, clear tone. The Stopko has a growl similar to a tube preamp, giving character to the sound. Hit it hard with a boost or a saturation pedal and you can end up with even more drive. Very nice. With the gain set below clipping, the ROD has plenty of dynamics and headroom. This too can be said about the Cube, but again, the tone is slightly colored. Remember when I talked about the volume knobs? Well, the Taurus sounds louder than the Stopko. But what I discovered, and it's difficult to hear if you're not in the room, is that the ROD pumps out some serious subs, as already mentioned many times in this video. If you put a compressor or an EQ pedal in the effects loop of the ROD, then it can sound a lot louder. So back to the volume knob issue. The lower the frequencies, the more power you need, the more you have to raise the volume knob. As simple as that. So when using the GSS with its two 6.5-inch monitor speakers, I do have to lower the bass on the ROD if I want it to sound louder, because it just cannot handle that much subs. The FMC, on the other hand, has no problem with it. And by the way, did you hear how clear that 15-inch cab sounds? Amazing and super lightweight. When using the Cube, as long as I don't set the bass mini switch to plus, everything good. So there you have it. Perhaps you would like to share with us in the comments section what you think about these two bass heads made in Europe. Taurus has been around for some years and has proven to be reliable. Stopko is a new brand that I am convinced will make a name for itself. If you did enjoy this video, please give it a like and subscribe if you haven't already. I'll see you in the next video. We'll be doing some Muse stuff with 3 pedals. Bye-bye.